We are live. This is episode 80. Hard to believe that we have made it to 80 episodes. It's incredible. This episode is called On Your Side of the Table, Scaling with Virtual Tech Leadership. We are super excited to have Paul Knittle, who is the founder and president of MTMG. We will hear all sorts of things about what Paul does shortly, so I won't dive into it. What I'm going to do actually is just turn it over to Paul and just ask you the question we always ask at the beginning of our episodes, which is, what is on your mind?
You know, the death of trust. I've been in sales and marketing for most of my career, so for 30 years. And what used to be something you could easily do in the past was shoot emails about great ideas and people would actually read them. It has become so, the market has become so inundated with people that just constantly pepper with email and email and email, and AI is even making it worse. But I saw some stats the other day, 90% of B2B outreach gets ignored. And 80% of decision makers say they've never had a positive interaction with a seller. Think about that. 80% say they've never had a positive reaction or a positive interaction with a vendor. That worries me about the industry because AI is only going to make it worse. But the reason that it resonates for me these days is my whole firm is built on helping clients solve problems and sift through sales pitches, really. We have a team of people that come in and, as you said in the title, sit on your side of the table. Right. Their whole job is to come in and sit down with your team, find out what you're trying to do, work with a new MSP, get mobile devices under control, redo your network, look at your cloud infrastructure, whatever it happens to be from a tech perspective, and understand what you're trying to do, and then help you sift through all of those vendor options and say, okay, well, here's a list of 20 that you're talking to. We'll break it down for you. We'll give you the pros and cons of each one, and then we'll help you through that negotiation. And 90% of the time, we don't charge anybody because we get paid by whoever they choose. So we don't add on that fee to our clients. So we can do all of this for free to the client. And even then, when our goal is to help them and we do it at no cost, people still worry about, well, you're just trying to sell me something. It's too good to be true. It can't be real.
Well, and it's just this interesting challenge, right? Because to some extent, like I run into this, like even on like the coaching side of things and whatever, it's like people feel very uncomfortable when you give them something for free because they know that there's nothing in this world for free. And so it actually erodes, and it's a weird thing, right? It actually erodes trust. So I've actually I started to do this thing that somebody taught me to do, which is I don't offer people, for example, when I do my executive coaching work, I don't offer people free coaching, to try it out or whatever. I offer them a gift of coaching, and I actually make them sign a contract with me for the free sessions that I'm doing with them, right? Because and I think I never really thought about it in terms that you're talking about, but it's like, I need to establish that I am giving you something of value, and that my intent in giving you something of value is for you to determine whether this thing is of value to you. And therefore you are going to trust me more, because if I give you something for free, it seems like something sketchy is going on here. So I think that's right.
I actually think that you are very much onto something, Paul, in that in the B2B world, there used to be certain trust implied, right? And the implied trust is out of the window. When you said 90%, I thought it would be like 99. Really, it's just out of the window. But then your model is a very different business model, which I think is becoming more and more viable, in that instead of listening or reading a pitch, I'm going to ask for a referral. And that is, I think, especially with AI progressing further and further, I think that's where we're going to get more and more entrenched. We want somebody to vouch. We want somebody to recommend. We want somebody to refer. What do you think about that?
I agree. And that's, if you think about it, that's a big part of what we do. We have referral arrangements with over 1,000 different vendors because we know them. We've dealt with them. They are the different strategic players in these different categories of solutions that almost all customers need at some point or another. Our goal is to help sift through them. So you're absolutely right. And from the vendor's perspective, they love it because we bring really qualified clients that have a demonstrated need. We know exactly what they're looking for, and we can help the vendors decide, is it a good fit for them? Do they want to try to win this business? Or, you know what, no, that's not really the right fit. Let's pass on this one. And so from both the client's perspective, because we can help them sift through things, and from the vendor's perspective, it does work. The challenge is just having the people that are not used to this, they don't trust it because, well, how can it be free? And it must not be, to Jeff's point, it can't be valuable. Right. And so that's where one of the things we've tried to do is talk about it right up front. So I actually just did post a piece the other day called The Elephant in the Room. And it was, well, if you're free, how does that work? Because you must be getting paid by somebody. Right. And so we lead with, we are vendor funded. We're going to be paid by one of the 1,000 vendors that we work with. But the key is how we structure it. We set it up so that we don't get paid unless you become happy and stay happy. We are also making it very clear that the client is in control every step of the way. We present the options, but it's up to them to choose whichever one they prefer. And then the last piece is, I lost my train of thought there for a second.
There's one other piece of this that I want to bring up. We're talking about this whole cost. There's no cost, it's free or whatever, but there is a cost in terms of, your mental resources, your time, your attention. If you start talking to people who aren't the right people, I mean, I've been in process. We were trying to put in a purchase order system at one company, and it was like years worth. I mean, the vendors must have hated our company because we kept asking them to come back, whatever. But these processes can actually take a toll in terms of those kinds of resources too. And so there's I'm not sure to what degree you're experiencing that, but I know in my mind, it's like, one of the worst things from my perspective and, from the IT and software world that used to drive me nuts is like, we're going to give you a 2-month demo or a 3-month demo of whatever it is. And I'm like, what are you thinking I'm going to spend all the time to implement this thing so I can figure out whether I want to buy it? Like, that's actually a huge cost. And so I don't know. I'll turn it over to you to react to that one. Yeah.
I just want to add to it, Paul, one other factor. An investment in building, maintaining, and vetting the network. That probably is the biggest investment of them all.
Well, so 2 points that you've been making there. One is investing that time. One of the things that my partners and I have built is we don't lead with a product because that's not our mission. Our mission is to help. Our mission is to go in and sit down with the client and say, what are you struggling with? And every time we start the conversation from there, it goes in completely different directions. And so to your point, Eric, we aren't asking them to stop what they're doing and try to do this new solution that they didn't already know there's a problem. What we're saying is you already know there's a problem. You just don't know how to solve it. We can come in, help you understand how to solve it. And then we do a lot of the legwork. So a case in point, there's a person that we were working with at a client. He was the head of IT, but he's retiring soon. And he said, you know what? We're a relatively small organization. I do everything. I've literally done everything from design the network, design the infrastructure, design all of these things. And I help do break fix. But what I want to do is I want to bring in an MSP, an outsourced help desk, to come in and do a lot of what I do today. But I don't have the time to go vet them all. Right. So can you help me? So we, of course, did. We went through, we brought him 7 or 8 different choices. We had them go through a list of specs that he had. We took on all of that effort for him so that he could still solve that same problem, but stay focused on what he was doing. And that's really, so to your point, if someone's worried about, well, this is going to take too much time, that's exactly why we're there, is to help them retain as much focus and time on their core business objectives and their core day, and let us do that scuttle work to get more information and to get that insight. And I feel like I overuse it at times, but we bring that super experienced people to sit on the client side of the table as a member of their team that they didn't have to pay for. They don't have to worry about salary. They don't have to worry about benefits. All of that stuff is taken care of. But these people have been through the wars.
Right.
So, Paul, so you brought up this issue of it's difficult to create trust, even when you're giving something, maybe even particularly when you're giving something away for free or whatever it is. So what is your process? Like, what is your approach to creating the trust and essentially connecting with and enrolling potential, not vendor, I guess technically, your vendors are really the ones who are your clients, but your sort of end user customer is, how do you enroll those people?
So there's a couple of different ways. And one of the things that you touched on before, actually, no, I'm sorry, it was Elena. You mentioned it was referrals. Mm-hmm. And one of our strongest methods is through somebody that we're connected to, them saying, oh, you know what? This person over here could really use your help. And that is by far the strongest way we've been able to make an impact quickly. Mm-hmm. But we're trying a number of ways to help feed the industry or the market to know what we're about, why we're doing what we're doing, give them thought leadership stuff through LinkedIn and through our website. And we also do a podcast, which, I'm hopefully we'll get you folks to come on ours as well. But we do that to help spotlight not only the vendors that we work with, but we're branching it out this year into AI specific conversations. So just about how technology leaders are dealing with AI. Another one about cybersecurity, because it is every day there's a new breach. And then the last one is women in tech. My wife, who has never been in tech in her life, but has founded the company with me and has been so passionate and so helpful in the organization. As she's gotten to know all of our team or a lot of our vendors, she's like, there's such a huge gap here for women. Mm-hmm. There was a joke that one of the people on our podcast said, one of the great things about being a woman in tech is that there's never a queue at the ladies' room. And I thought, okay, sad, but true. And so my wife has reached out to some women in tech leaders, and they are so excited to do this. We've got 2 episodes up now, but it is yet another place where we're trying to just have that message spread. Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think this is, we were talking about a little bit about this before we, got on live here, but Eric and I with our own business, we always start the conversation with this idea that because a lot of people on the marketing side are like, I hired a small companies, like I hired a marketer, marketing isn't working, it doesn't work. We hired somebody 10 months, we haven't gotten a single lead, blah, blah, those kinds of things. And we hear that. Mm-hmm. And my response to all this is I said, well, the problem is because you're trying to basically do Coca-Cola marketing for a company that has no trust at all. Like Coca-Cola just has to do like awareness type marketing for the most part because they have 138 years of people basically drinking Coca-Cola and essentially getting the same product, every time. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you are, some, brand new startup or even a small company that's been around for 40 years, but nobody's heard of you, they're hardly going to just land on your website and drop $100,000 and be like, sure, I'll work with these guys. Their website looks great, So we always talk about this idea, like everything you do should be about building trust. And it's funny because we were working with a client recently, and one of the things that we were talking to them about was this idea of like, maybe you should shift your marketing strategy towards building the referral partnerships as opposed to focusing your marketing on finding the clients, because you are much more likely to find, especially this particular niche that they're in, like you're more likely to find people by creating a set of trusted people who go, oh, you should talk to these guys. So I think this trust idea is exactly right that you're talking about. It really needs to build first and foremost, how do I trust these people? And being the broker in between definitely is kind of a trust broker, I guess, if you will.
I would build on it for a minute and say that, especially in B2B, right? The lead times are long because the deal price is high. And the amount of work that it takes to implement your systems, to very often, upgrade or change or buy tech and just have all the change management, the stakes are high. It ain't a can of Coca-Cola. So that just takes a completely different journey. And Paul, I would love for you to kind of talk to us about these journeys and how do you see them evolving now that AI is trying to say, oh yeah, I'm going to give you an AI SDR. Yeah, right. Let's just get one of those.
Sure. But one of the things you just said is really critical. And that's, there was the old adage, you can't get fired for using IBM, or you can't get fired for using AT&T. I used to work for T-Mobile and try to sell to a large enterprise. And they all said, well, no, Verizon and AT&T are all I need. I don't care if you can save me money. I don't care if you're better international than they are. I won't get fired if I stay with Verizon. And that mindset is very true. But one of the things that I love about the team is that we help clients de-risk a lot of those decisions because they can talk to Ken Davis, our network guru. He's been through it for 50 years, 40 years. I'm sorry, Ken, didn't mean to say 50. I apologize. But he's been through it so many times. He has heard every pitch under the sun. He headed network for a very large rental car company. So he's had to do that. So having him come in and sit and talk to your team, again, at no cost, is really beneficial for clients to feel better about it. And feel like, wait a minute, okay, now I didn't have to go and hire somebody else to do this. I got that great insight, and I've now made this decision much more comfortable for the organization because we know what we're walking into.
So I have a different angle I want to come at this conversation from, which is, the title is talking about virtual tech leadership. So one of the pieces of that is the implication, at least from my experience, that IT infrastructure, technology infrastructure in general, even though more and more people are understanding that everything ultimately needs technology to be driven, it is still a lagging area of investment for many, many companies. Like the idea of a company never, bringing in, like a biotech company never bringing in a head of biology until it's absolutely needed or something, or until a year or two after it's needed, is super rare. Bringing in the IT lead, waiting, years and years before you even bother to bring in somebody in-house. I'm curious your take on that. And I don't know, biotech's maybe that's an impression I get from biotech, because that is definitely a characteristic of the biotech world. But what do you see? Do you see that is true across the board? I mean, I think it might even be true at tech companies, which is super weird to think about.
It is absolutely true across almost all industries. And the key, though, is it's kind of understandable when you take one step back and say, what is the reason a business is in place? It's to solve a problem for someone. They created a product to do something to solve a problem for somebody else. So at its core, the one thing a business needs to do is solve that problem. So at the beginning, everything is about that one thing. Then you need to have finance. Then you need to have salespeople to go tell everybody about this. Then you need to have marketing. And oh yeah, we need IT. It comes much later. But one of the things that we see is companies that start off small and they start to grow and they start to grow and they start to grow. Now, all of a sudden, they're 500 employees and they still have the same person that was the head of IT, who was fantastic when they had 20 employees, and he knew how to fix a laptop. He knew how to handle this and he knew how to handle that, or she knew how to handle any of those pieces. But now they're in charge of running their 5-year roadmap on technology and how they're going to implement AI and how they're going to do this and this and this. And that's way outside their comfort zone. So those types of organizations are constantly in that feeling of, do we just go outside, hire somebody that's never been part of this organization, wasn't with us all the way while we were growing, but they've been there before? Or do they take the approach that we recommend? And that's keep those people you love. They've been with you through the wars to get you from that 50 employees to that 500 employees, but bring in someone that's been a Fortune 100 CIO to coach them, to help them see how can they take that next step. And that's one of those things that we really believe is so helpful in letting companies scale, is being able to say, you know what, these people on our team we love. They're a great cultural fit. They've been giving the shirt off their back. They are wonderful. Let's invest more in them to take them to that next level.
Yeah, with the caveat that they have to be willing to, and I always say the way I always say it is, they have to learn that their job is no longer to do things, it's to get things done, and you have to get to that point. Well, we're at the 21-minute mark. In fact, this is when we usually have AI actually come in and some LLM come in and ask some questions. So I'll turn it over to Jeff to ask some questions from, is it ChatGPT this week, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT seems to have just rolled out like a new version today or something. So
GPT-5.
You got to go with GPT-5. I mean, whatever. So I asked it for funny questions for the founder of MTMG.eu. I didn't even tell it what you did. I just let it look at your website. So we'll have to just see how it did. But my question I always ask is, do you want absurd first or thought-provoking first?
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I know. I 9 out of 10 dentists seem to say absurd first, so we'll go with it. All right. Number one question from ChatGPT's list here was, if MTMG were a rock band, what would be your debut album title?
Wow.
That's an absurd, all right?
Oddly, it's absurd and thought-provoking.
Wow.
And you better know your music too.
Well, I'll be honest, I was in a band in high school and college, and we were so, that's when we were all excited about naming a band. So, we were side 3. I don't know where that came from, but and the first album was going to be Life in the Fast Lane. We already decided what our first album's title was going to be, Life in the Fast Lane, but never got there. So for what the companies, boy, I
feel like there's an obvious answer to this question. Do you want me to give you my answer?
Sure.
It's going to be Mind the Gap, man.
Well, that is the original name for the company. So that's where I think I might be losing. The original idea for the company was to do this, but just about mobile devices, because that's what one of the other founders and we came from the mobile background. So we were going to be Mind the Mobile Gap. If you've ever been in London, they've got the big signs that say Mind the Gap. We were going to use that and then scratch in mobile. But then as we started to build the company, we saw we're a lot more than mobile. We can't call ourselves that. So we just shortened it to MTMG. But so because of that, I didn't even think of Mind the Gap. But that's a good one.
There's my title for you.
As long as you pronounce it with that posh British accent, that would do.
Okay.
My favorite thing about the name of your company is that, like, you are much earlier on than Duncan have switched to letters. I mean, it's,
we're ahead of our time.
Duncan has still not switched to letters, by the way, Jeff.
They
shortened it. KFC took about 40 years.
Well, no, the Duncan, there's the DNKN where it doesn't have a.
Oh, really? Is that what? Okay.
Well, I don't think it's the company name, but it's how they're branding themselves.
It's how they brand themselves. Right? So,
well, KFC was because they were, so my previous company, I traveled all over Europe, setting up our company in all these new countries. And so I experienced a lot of countries in Europe, and being new to go into Hungary or to Czech Republic, I didn't know what to look for restaurants. And one of the things that I saw in literally every one of them was a KFC.
Yeah.
It was bizarre to be driving through Hungary and see Budapest in this beautiful old city and then see a KFC in it. Just seemed very odd to me.
Yeah.
The only thing better than saying driving through Hungary and looking for KFC would have been if you were driving through Turkey looking for KFC. So anyway,
That, very good point.
By the way, I have to tell this story because it came up the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's why that company is called Arby's." Because I never realized it stands for roast beef.
Really?
No idea. It just dawned on me. It's like, oh, that's why it's called. Anyway, Jeff, go ahead with the other.
I said that it was probably like 5 years ago, and I said that to my family and like blew everybody's mind. So, here's
literally how you pronounce it, and yet nobody notices it. Right, Jeff, go ahead.
That's because they took letters and turned it into a word. So anyway, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. It's a word.
So the number 2 question I would say is a good thought-provoking one, which is, what's the most creative way a client has tried to explain a tech problem to you?
I mean, I have to say the first thing that came to me was that, and this is an old joke though, so I have to be honest, this is not really from a client, but there was a woman that was calling into a help desk and said her cup holder on her laptop wasn't working. I don't know if you've ever heard that one, but she was using a DVD drive and she was putting her coffee into it.
That's creative.
So it is. I have to say, if I'm giving a genuine, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, in a genuine answer, one of the things that a client that was new to me, I hadn't really been thinking of it in these terms, but one of our clients is building AI into their products. And they're terrified about people being able to scam an LLM and convince it to do things it shouldn't do. Because he was walking me through examples of how people can get how to make a bomb, how to do this, how to do that out of ChatGPT or things. And they have millions of dollars already invested in keeping control of these LLMs. And they're terrified about what this is going to do if someone tries to do that with their product. What's the liability to it? So hearing how he described that to me, building a bomb, doing whatever, that was really fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
Wow.
So here's this was not what I was going to say before. I'll save that for another time. But my question that actually came up when you were first started talking about what you do, where you're helping people to figure out what vendors to talk to, etc. Do you think that there's room in the world, and I'm not saying to replace what you guys do, but for essentially having an AI gatekeeper who basically, in other words, rather than have your admin decide whether to send somebody through, you have to convince the company's AI chatbot that that you as a vendor should be allowed through, and you actually could potentially solve a problem. That would be interesting. Do you think is there something there? Is that crazy?
No, I think what we could do is we could create an AI tool to try and teach it to convince something else to do this, and then just let them go at it, and it'll just happen very fast. Because that we speak and it takes forever to convince someone of something, but just let the two AI bots go at it, and eventually they will figure themselves out.
Vendor bot can talk to potential
sales
client bot, and then and basically they decide together. Yeah, there's actually something here that makes it work. And it's like, I don't know. Should we have said
do we really want to have the bots choosing? I was going to say, do we really want to give the bots the tools to go and decide our fate? I would rather keep that in people's hands for now.
Well, I also think that there is an essential and critical part to it is that the biggest value, in my opinion, to what you bring to the table is a vetted network. AI cannot build the vetted network. Yes, AI can go ahead and speed up your search, right? Which one do I pick, or which one do I pitch, or how do I pitch? I could see that. But it becomes still your task to find gold and stand for this gold, in my opinion.
But I think you're absolutely right. But one other thing to add to that is there is no replacement for the value of having Joe from my team sitting down with your fleet leader and saying, I've been through this. I know what I'm doing. Let me help you guide through this. And human to human, making that connection, there is such a greater amount of trust, such a greater amount of openness. That's something that cannot be replaced by AI as well.
Well, I think that speaks to the point that a lot of times what you are buying is actually not the product, because there's 10 people that can do it, but the relationship and the chemistry, right? And if I don't have chemistry with the people that I'm going to have to work with, now where we'll get interested is if you have a business that's entirely agentic in nature, then maybe you can do that with AI.
Right.
But there are going to be certain businesses where you're still going to need a human being to deal with the human beings on the other side. And that role of trust is going to be interesting. But I also think it'll be interesting how clever people get in terms of how they're using AI. Like Eric and I were talking, I probably shouldn't even say this on the screen because maybe this is a new idea or whatever, but whatever. Is this idea, we were talking with somebody yesterday about this idea of essentially, like, imagine a dynamic AI lead magnet, right? That essentially changes the lead magnet behavior based on
what your answers are or whatever.
Like it's going to ask you, it will ask you questions, you give it answers. It doesn't give you a template, like a PDF template. It sort of gradually,
it finds out what you're really looking for and then creates it on the fly.
And so the interesting question is, like, at some point, is there going to be, as AI stops being sort of generic, viewed as generic ChatGPT, like, will we find eventually that there are essentially AI, bots, whatever you want to call them, that are more trustworthy than others, right? And will we actually transfer trust to this? The Coca-Cola bot is good, but the Pepsi bot is terrible, like their drinks or
taste testing.
Well, I have a question on that subject. Microsoft Copilot, right, or OpenAI, and
right.
Implied brand transfer into the new tool to build on Jeff's question. Does this?
Well, there's been significant challenges over the last year with exactly that. Copilot came in with this huge presence. Microsoft is bringing Copilot. It's going to be the answer to all things. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to do this and this and this and this and this. I tried it. It was nowhere near where they said it was going to be. It was nowhere near as capable as they said it was going to be. I gave up after 7 days, and I use a lot of the tools frequently. So I was really surprised at how poor it was. And I've seen and heard from a lot of the people across the industry, they are all struggling with it because it is not living up to its potential. It does have great potential. It's just not there yet. But to your point, building that reputation for Claude, the Anthropic tool, or ChatGPT, or Gemini, or whatever it is, they are all showing strengths and weaknesses, just like any other business. And I use different ones for different things because they do have those strengths and weaknesses, and they are building their quote unquote brand or their reputation based on how they perform. But ChatGPT is notorious for terrible hallucinations. And
not GPT-5, but
well, hopefully, but I mean, and there's times where it's like you're dealing with a petulant child that it starts to say, well, no, that's not what I said. Really? Okay. And I'll play along with it every once in a while and start getting into, well, no, you said you were doing this. You said you actually were performing this action, and now you're telling me you can't do that. Well, were you lying before when you said you could do this and that you were physically doing it? Well, I wasn't being clear that I could, it's crazy stuff.
So, Paul, we are well over our half an hour point, and we probably could talk to you all afternoon. I got to go bring one of my kids to an activity before
nothing wrong with that.
Banging on the door and coming in to tell me that it's time to go. Let's go around and give leave our audience with one thing. Anything that you want to mention and bring up from the episode.
Just the one thing I would say, and this is a shameless plug, but don't let budget get in the way of making progress. If there's tools you can use, companies like mine or others, that can help you solve problems, give it a chance, because there's so many great resources out there for you.
Paul, thank you so much. Before I jump in with my one thing, what is the best place for people to reach you, connect with you?
So LinkedIn, I'm on frequently. So just look me up, Paul Knittle. There's not a lot of us there. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only one. There might be more, but so just look up Paul Knittle. I'm there, or just pk@mtmg.eu.
There it is on the screen. So, well, Paul, this has been a fascinating conversation, and I think I'm just going to pick up on where you started, which was this whole idea of trust and the fact that as technology advances and changes, the way we the need to establish trust never changes, but the way we have to establish trust continues to change. And so the things that worked, in 1950, billboards, TV, and whatever, and magazines, no longer work, and it just makes it democratizes business, but it also makes it harder. And so I think it's a really important point. And I like the fact that you're essentially a trust broker. I think that's a really cool place to be. And I will pass it to Elena.
And I will stick with the subject that in the era of AI proliferation, the trust, human expertise and human knowledge, and kind of, standing by certain recommendation has a lot of weight. So I appreciate that point, and I appreciate the fact that you stick to this business model.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my thing is, similarly, I really think this advisory model, and hearing you, the more I hear you talk about it, is really interesting. I love that you have this way of not charging the client, but even so, I love that concept you said of taking the person who's built up the company and coaching and being an advisor to enable them to actually move to the next level. I think that's a fantastic thing. I think that's something that IT folks, if they can get past their initial sort of like, why are you bringing outside people in, if they can get on board with that, it's a really strong, valuable approach. So Paul, thank you so much. And thanks Tara for all of her great comments in the comments over here. She's talking about the AI dystopian movie. I forget what we were talking about at the moment, but she's a data center Hunger Games. That's really funny. So thank you. Hey, thanks for coming on the show, and we look forward to hearing more about MTMG and everything you're up to.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.